Welcome, everyone. It's a Wrap with Rap. I'm your host, Ron Rappaport. First off, I would like to thank all of our listeners, supporters, and sponsors for making the podcast such a success. The podcast is being heard in all 50 states, all provinces of Canada, and over 70 countries around the world. The podcast has been ranked by FeedSpot as one of the top 35 overcoming adversity podcasts on the web, from thousands in that category, and is ranked by traffic, social media followers, and content freshness. Please visit the website, itsawrapwithrap.com, for all the episodes, previews of future episodes, and find products from our sponsors. This podcast features people who have overcome life's challenges and adversities, people who can inspire, motivate, and educate us on an assortment of topics. My guest today is Daniel MacQueen. At age 28, Dan was leading an active, healthy life. Dan was living in the United Kingdom in 2014 when he started getting terrible headaches. The first time he went to the hospital, he was told he had vertigo and to get his eyes checked. After an optometrist appointment to identify the cause of his persistent headaches was cut short, he was handed a sealed envelope and told to go directly to the hospital. What followed was emergency brain surgery. Then his reality was shattered by a devastating brain hemorrhage. Dan has survived 2 emergency brain surgeries, weeks in a coma, and months in a rehab hospital. What he found along the way will surprise you. Dan talks with us about his recovery, the ups and downs, and what he did to return to normal and achieve a new milestone, all with hope of helping others. Welcome, Dan, to the podcast.
Hey, Ron, thank you so much for having me. And what did I say? What an honor to be on your podcast. You got some very cool accolades on this podcast, Ron.
It's great to have you, Dan. Tell us, Dan, what was life like for you before June 2014 when you were admitted to the hospital?
Yeah, thanks, Ron. So, as you mentioned, I was living in London, England. I had just finished a master's in Sweden. So I was, living my life in Europe. Had moved over from Canada, from Vancouver, where it's home for me right now. And living in London, not making much money, but working my tail off and blowing that money pretty much the first or second weekend I got it, going out in London town. London's quite a vibrant city, so I was really enjoying myself there and having a great time, just bootstrapping it, enjoying the city, being on my own in this big city and just enjoying life. And these headaches kind of came out of nowhere. They started the blinding headaches, right? Like they were super, super heavy. I went to accident and emergency, which is ER, I think, in the US and in Canada. And they thought it was vertigo. They sent me home. But the next day I found myself on the tube. Now the tube's how you get around London. And the headaches were so bad. The vision was getting pressed so much that my vision started fading in on the sides. To the point where I was like, I'm losing my sight here. And then I landed at a Notting Hill gate, got off at the tube station, and my vision blacked out. I couldn't see. I was blind on the platform. I didn't know what to do.
Wow.
Like, I didn't know what to do. I wish I could tell you I had a plan to get out of this pickle, but I didn't know what to do. And luckily, my vision came back after about 5 minutes, and I continued on my day. And then the next day, I figured out I'm going back to the hospital to figure this out. Next day, I went back to the hospital. They thought it was vertigo again. They sent me home, but they told me on the way out I could always get my eyes checked in an optometrist, right? An optometrist is kind of odd.
I
So,
mean,
well, I guess I'll give it a try.
I
So,
mean,
what?
what when you had that blackout on your
Yeah,
vision, was it just one eye or both eyes?
both eyes. I couldn't see.
You couldn't see.
So I knew
That was
something was
that
wrong
was a
here.
that was a point where you said, "Hey, I've got to get to a doctor." At
Yeah,
that
there's
point,
something wrong here. This is not like this is not vertigo or some like problem. No, like this is something going on here. This is not normal.
right, right.
That's when I was kind of like, well, I'm gonna figure this out. So, the next day I found myself in Mr. Patel's chair, the optometrist, right? Midway through the routine exam, he stops the exam, excuses himself from the room, and he comes back a few minutes later with a sealed envelope, right?
Yeah. Wow.
He tells me I need to go directly to Moorfields Hospital, which I did. Ron, tell a lie. I stopped at home first to grab a Jack Reacher book by Lee Child, a phone charger to bite to eat. I figured I'd be in for a bit of a wait at the ER, so let's, get some supplies.
Yeah.
I went to the hospital, they ran the same test and escalated me to Charing Cross Hospital. It turns out I had a dangerous buildup of pressure on my pineal gland caused from a non-cancerous cyst in my head. Turns out I required emergency brain surgery tomorrow. It turns out my world's about to change altogether.
But
So after a frantic,
let me stop
like,
you for a
well,
second. When he gave you that envelope,
yeah,
sealed envelope, he didn't tell you anything other than just go to the hospital?
yeah. He just said you need to give this to the Moorfields Hospital technician, tell him to look at this, and then to run the tests on you to see and verify the tests. So I did that. I knew this is not a good thing,
Yeah,
but I'm not gonna like open the envelope and like Google it in my house and be like, well, I'll figure out what's going on here. I'm like, let's get to the bottom of this.
yeah.
To be honest, they were very cagey about telling me what was going on. Like, they didn't tell me what was happening. They just kept escalating me up and up and up. And then I'm told, you know what, you're not gonna know for emergency brain surgery tomorrow. So like, let those people close to you know. And like, I, called my brother, messaged my mom and dad in Vancouver, and the last text message I sent my mom read, I'll see you soon, mom. Think I'll have a new haircut next time I see you. Like, that's the last text message she gets when I'm, literally an ocean apart, about to go into emergency brain surgery. So she's flying to London on June 21st, 2014. I'm on the operating table, right?
Right.
Something goes horribly wrong, and I have a massive bleed in the brain. A
Well,
brain,
let me backtrack.
yeah.
Did they tell you, obviously, before you went into surgery, what they were going to do and the whole 9 yards, what was wrong?
They said I had buildup pressure in my brain, caused my growth in my brain. They were going to try and get it out. So this is
Okay.
my pineal gland, which is where you like the fluid drains through your brain.
Yeah.
They were trying to get that out. We went in to operate, and I guess the pressure change caused some havoc, and I had a bleed in the brain, a brain hemorrhage. So massive bleed on the table, and like it was everything went sideways, right? Like it was supposed to be a pretty routine, like I mean, routine for brain surgery, but like pretty simple brain surgery operation, and then it went just pear-shaped on it, sideways. So mom, this is all while mom's in the air, right? So she lands and finds out I'm a critical condition. My dad calls her when she lands, lets her know, hey, just so you know, Dan's in a coma right now. The surgery went sideways. He's in a medically induced coma, and like he's up against it right now. So like just know before you go to the hospital, like you're gonna be going into like a storm. So she goes to the hospital, and like I can't imagine how difficult that was for her to go into that, 0 to 60 off the hop. I'm in a coma for 4 weeks, so I don't really know what's happening. I'm just like, feeding tubes. I'm ripping up feeding tubes, and I got a trachea. I need to breathe, and I kept pulling out the feeding tubes because I didn't like the feeling in my nose about the feeding tube, so I ripped it out. They put mittens around my hands, Ron. But I'd eventually work on the mittens for days at a time, and I'd finally get them free, and I'd rip out this feeding tube, have like a moment of freedom, and they put the tube back down. They have to X-ray me to see, make sure the feeding tube is not in my lungs, in my stomach, and my lungs.
Wow.
And so I lost probably, 20, 30 pounds of weight, and it was real up against it at this stage, and it was real dark, real gloomy, real bleak.
Yeah. That must have been horrible. When you sent that text to your mother, were you pretty shaken up at that time, or were you pretty cool about it?
No, it reads cool, but I was terrified.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I called my brother, he goes, yeah, you were super chill with the whole thing. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go for brain surgery tomorrow. Because my thinking was this could be your last memory with your brother. Like, don't go like some whimpering punk, like I'm scared of this. Like, no, no, like let's feel it light, a bit jovial. How do you want to be remembered? And that's like a bit.
From the hometown of the podcast, Jacksonville, Florida, comes Fresh Jack's Organic Spices. Fresh Jack's is a small business on a mission to get people eating at home with healthy food to maintain a healthy lifestyle and transforming that healthy food to delicious with their handcrafted spices. Unlike other spices, which are laden with dyes, anti-caking chemicals, and radiation, Fresh Jack's lists all the ingredients in the bottle for transparency. Unlike other commercial brands, which by law only have to list their ingredients as spices. All the spices at Fresh Jack's are handcrafted, hand-churned, and even hand-packed by their team. Since 2019, Fresh Jack's started their One Box Equals One Meal program. For every box sold, Fresh Jack's donates a meal to a child in need. So far, 472,000 meals have been donated. Fresh Jack's makes seasonings for grilling, for barbecue, for smoke cooking, keto and keto grilling, veggie lovers, seasoned sea salt, and much more. Click the link in the podcast notes to check out the products and to order.
it was a bit vanity metrics or a bit like vain, but like I don't know, I didn't want to go like a whimpering punk, but like I wanted to have a bit of chat, bit of class, bit of cheek, bit of charm. I didn't want to go whimpering into this. I kind of wanted to go like, you know what, this is going on, and then like, and then it went sideways, right? And then like it
Yeah.
was, then this was a real dogfight, right? It was on the brink for weeks. You know, they told my parents I may not make it, and I finally got out of the coma 4 weeks later. I wake up my mom, dad, and brother around the bed, and I'm trying to talk to them, but I can't talk because the tracheotomy was in my throat, and they ripped up my vocal cords pretty good. So you go,
Yeah,
get
for
me a pen and
sure.
paper, right?
Right.
So I point to my brother, I go, you, and I go, get me out of here, and I show it to him. I say, Cam, I point to him like, you make this happen, get me out of here. He's saying, what do you want me to do, bud? You had one eye buggered as hell, hence the eye patch now. I've got double vision still. And you know, you're one of my one leg was frozen, so I couldn't move my leg, the left leg. I had to wear a splint and rehab that for months to get back to walking again. But I'm not going anywhere, right? Like I'm on the cusp, on the fritz of like life. And
Yeah.
my first reaction was like, let's get the hell out of this hospital. This was bad. This was horrible. But it was, you know, 0 to 60 overnight.
Yeah. You were just nobody was getting you out of there. That's for sure.
It
Uh,
wasn't
do,
busting
do,
me
do
out,
you
no.
do you recall, Dan, what it was like when you were in and out of consciousness? And what can you tell us happened when you finally awoke?
Yeah, so I have this one memory being in the coma, like in and out of consciousness, and that was this dream of like being on a submarine. But for some reason, there was a big aquarium on the submarine, and I couldn't understand why. Because I'm like, we're on a submarine, guys. Why is there a submarine with an aquarium on it? It doesn't make any bloody sense. You're already underwater. So I don't know what that means. You can read that what you will, but it was just like it was a perplexing state and confusing. Like I've got weird flashbacks of being like bathed on a mat and being rummaged around and just you know it was not the most pleasant of times. I'll tell you that much, Ron.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Describe to us how did they keep your body temperature stable?
Yeah, so when I was in a coma, they had to keep my core temperature down below 40 degrees. Otherwise, I'd be brain damage. So they used ice blankets above and below me to keep my core temperature down. This led to violent shivering. This lasted on and off for about a week. My family says it's horrible to watch. So I'm like shivering like I'm out of control shivering. But they had to keep my core temperature down below 40, otherwise there'd be more brain damage in my head. So up against it, and like, because the brain hemorrhage damaged the parts of the brain that regulate body temperature, heart rate, the essential body systems. I was all out of whack. So this was just like, this sounds horrible to listen to and to watch, but like it was, I'm shivering like crazy. You know, they're telling my mom and dad like we got to keep the core temperature down, otherwise it will be serious brain damage, more so than what you're gonna have with a brain injury. So they did this to keep me stable for about a week, and then my body temperature finally caught up and regulated with what it was supposed to do. But like, yeah, it sounds horrific. And I mean, I was cold for months after this, to be honest. I had to wear toques and scarves and jackets and jumpers and stuff to keep me warm afterwards because the bone got into my bones, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it just sounds horrible. Were you able to get your mind off of this at any time? Maybe dream a little or just, that kind of thinking.
There, what, sorry?
Did you say to yourself, I'm going to think about something else just to keep yourself calm or whatever? How did that work?
No, you can't really think about anything else. Like you're in this. I remember one night being in the ICU, which is the intensive care unit, and it's a wild place at night. Like there's people screaming and wailing and crying, and like they bring you all in this one room, and you got like all the night staff looking after this. It's like the high intensity people like need to be in one area, like they're looking after you. People
Yeah.
crying and screaming, and like this place is a wild place at night. And just remember thinking like in my head, like this is this is a wild spot. It's a wild memory. Like you're never gonna help, heaven forbid, like hopefully never gonna go back to this space again. But like this is a wild place to be, man. Take note of this. Like this is where you don't want to end up ever again in life. Like, but like just thinking like how dire and bleak it was, and thinking to myself like like I'll be honest, Ron. Like I was down for about a month after this initial injury, right? Like about a month. Woe is me. This isn't fair. Real pity party, right? but I never showed that I was down. I kind of showed like, I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. Like, let's kind of segment this and kind of address this in a way that I can get back to normal life. And I never allowed myself to fully go down the pity spiral, what I call it. And that's the woe's me, this isn't fair, you are kind of mentality. But, I was thinking in my head, like, this is not a good situation. This is not cool. But I never allowed myself to go down the woe's me mentality. My friends always said, Dan, it was never a displeasure to go visit you because you're always like happy and upbeat and chipper. Like, you were never down on this. And I really kind of made sure I didn't do that because I wanted people to come visit me and not see me in like this dour, sad state, but like someone who's got like a bit of zest, a bit of life. And my doctor, Jens Foles, years later told me, Dan, you never lost the zest for life in your eyes. Like, the eyes still had life in them. Even months later when you came to visit me, and that was something that I really held on to because I guess you can check out
Yeah.
and you can lose that zest for life in your eyes. And if you lose it, I don't know if you get it back, to be honest.
Yeah, you're going to go down that rabbit hole and it's not going to end up good.
I
So,
mean, it's not fair that it happened, right? But like, if you allow yourself to go down that checkout mindset of like the eyes are gone, like, well, you don't get that back, man. That spark's gone. It's like extinguishing a flame.
yeah,
And I never allowed myself to extinguish that flame because I knew that if I did that, hey man, you're in for a world of hurt.
right.
It's
And
not
you,
fair, but it's not personal, right, Ron? Like, life's not fair, but it's not personal. It's not happening to you. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you. And like, I really had to solidify this mindset, man. It was really difficult to do this, but I knew it was crucial. It was everything. It was everything. I needed this for life.
yeah, that's what I always say. You can go down that pity road. Why is this happening to me? Or you can go down that other road, that fork in the road, and say, why is this happening for me? Even though it may not make sense at the time, there might be a reason, right?
Yeah, they say there's two things in life that are for constant, right? Like death and taxes, right? Well, I'm gonna argue there's a third, Ron. That's a curveball.
Yeah,
Everyone in life is gonna face that curveball, right?
right.
Your curveball will be different than my curveball, but I can guarantee you in life you're gonna face a curveball. And how are you gonna react to that? It's the mindset above anything else.
Yes.
How you think about it matters more than what it is. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. And that's Epictetus. That's not mine. That's Epictetus. But I swear by this and I live by this, and I promise you this is true.
So you eventually, Dan, get discharged from the hospital and you're sent to a rehab facility. What was the state of... Let me break away for a moment to tell you about a great veteran-owned company making awesome products and giving back to the veteran and first responder community. Lucas Rui, an Air Force veteran, is co-founder of the Hero Soap Company in Arizona. He has always had a passion for using natural products, and his products that he manufactures are such a more healthier way to treat your skin. Every product is made in the United States with the highest quality ingredients. All products are created without fragrance, synthetic colorants, parabens, sulfates that are irritating to the eyes, skin, mouth, and lungs, and cruelty-free, meaning these products at the Hero Soap Company are not tested on animals. Each bar of soap is handmade in Phoenix, Arizona. All of the Hero Soap Company's ingredients are sourced from companies in the United States, as well as their clothing line of t-shirts, hoodies, and tank tops. They pride themselves as being the most American company in the United States. The product line includes 5-ounce square bar-shaped soap with the following scents: the woods, the sights and sounds of nature come to life, infused with pine and cedarwood essential oils. Cedarwood, infused with cedarwood essential oil, and charcoal, bringing the fragrant feel of the forest into your life. There's tea tree. This bold flavor will soothe, refresh, and make you feel alive. There's lavender. This fragrance will melt away anxiety and tension. Peppermint cool, which will hit you with an amazing sensation of invigoration and exhilaration. There's spearmint. The fragrance will leave a subtle coolness all day long to revitalize the body. And there's lemongrass. Unwind at the end of the day while the lemongrass-infused essential oil enhances your sleep and immunity, and the infused goat's milk exfoliates dry and sensitive skin, and the coconut oil reduces inflammation and helps skin healing. The Hero Soap Company also makes a body wash in 16 ounces. There's lavender, which will let the stress melt off every time you shower. There's the pines. You will be cleansing your body, mind, and soul with the spirit of the forest. The meadow. This body wash will be an intense spark for your cleaning routine. It is juiced with an insane amount of oils that carries a current that captures the essence of freshness. The Arctic. This body wash is a glacial breeze of an eye-opening freeze. It has a ferocious peppermint punch that will refresh and restore your mind and body. Don't give it the cold shoulder. Liven up your daily routine with this frosty mint flavor. All the products are reasonably priced, so all can afford to use these natural products. It is so important now that all of us be careful what we ingest into and apply on our bodies. Please check out the website, herosoapcompany.com, for pricing and a detailed description of all the products and customer reviews of the products. The Hero Soap Company strives to create a brand that pays homage to the values that our country was founded on by our forefathers. With a veteran of the United States Air Force as one of the owners, the company understands the dedication and sacrifice that each family makes to serve their country. A portion of sales is donated back to charities that are focused on helping veterans and our first responders. The company information will be listed in the podcast notes and featured on the podcast website, Facebook page, and Facebook group. Your condition at that time?
Yeah, so I was this is about 4 or 5 months in. I was in a wheelchair still at this stage, 25, 30 minutes to get into a wheelchair. And I was in rough shape, but I was eager to get out of Charing Cross Hospital and Wilson Rehab Center. But the big thing was I'm going to learn how to walk again. That was the big drama, the big reach.
Right.
In order to walk, I had to wear a splint over my leg. A splint's like a catheter over your left leg. The idea was that I was going to gently tease out my leg muscle, right? The first night I wore through the night, no stress. This will be easy. I thought this will be easy. The second night, after 20 minutes, it was painful. After 30 minutes, it was dreadful. After 40 minutes, it was unbearable. I buzzed the nurse, take the splint off, please. I can't handle the pain. And on the third night, they wrapped my leg. They gave me the clicker, the nurse call button. They go patrol the Wilson ward. Now, the Wilson ward, Ron, was an L shape, so short on this side, longer on this side, okay? Short on this side, longer on this side. And it smells like only a hospital room can smell in that room. Sanitized, sterilized, it's clean, but you're wondering what sort of atrocity is being committed under the guise of this lemony zestness. After 10 minutes, the leg's painful. After 20 minutes, the leg's dreadful. After 30 minutes, the leg is unbearable. It's like a rat's nest has been descended on my leg, and they're just like scratching, clawing, gnawing their way through my leg. The pain is excruciating. I can't describe to you, Ron. I start passing the clicker back and forth, right, Ron? Distract myself from the pain. Now, I've got double vision from the brain injury, hence the eye patch now. I'm trying to wear the eye patch now for podcast because it helps me keep my eyes somewhat straight on the screen.
Right.
It means I can't see much of this clicker going back and forth, right? As the pain ratchets up, my throws get more enthusiastic. And then eventually, I drop the clicker and it lands on the hard linoleum floor. My lifeline's on the floor, right? What do? I look over the edge of the bed, I see the clicker on the floor looking back at me. If I can get that clicker, I can stop this pain. The only problem is, Ron, that fall might break my arm. In fact, I figured about a 50-50 chance of me breaking my arm. A coin flip, not the best odds. So I want to ask you, what would you do in that situation? Like, if the clicker's on the floor, would you risk the clicker? Would you risk waiting for the pain?
I'd probably risk the pain.
Just waiting it out?
What did you do?
Well, I'm trying to undo the splint, but it's up at the ankle, not at the hip. I can't reach that far. I'm not that flexible. I'm yelling out, help, help, but the word Wilson was an L shape, right? Short on this side, long on this side. I decided I'm going to flip the coin to grab the clicker because it's a 50-50 shot. I'm breaking my arm, but I need to splint off my leg immediately. This is the most important thing in my life. The most important thing in my life. I crash down in a heap, blankets, wires, cables, all to go. The arm holds, Ron. And I hammer the clicker, expecting the nurses to come bursting into the room to come and rescue. They kind of stroll in 5 minutes later. What are you doing the float of? That's exactly how they sounded. And I tell them, let's not worry about this. Let's get the splint off my leg, please, and I'll tell you all about this. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters, right? The reason why I'm telling the story, Ron, is I learned 3 lessons from this experience. The first and probably most important was let's not pass the clicker back and forth. With double vision, that's a recipe for disaster. The second was let's tie off the splint at the hip, not at the ankle. That way I can undo this should this happen going forwards. And the third and probably most profound during this period, let's always be solutions oriented from this moment onwards. In life, you're going to get hit with stuff. How can you resolve your issue then and there? Look back at it afterwards, understand why it happened, make sure it doesn't happen again. At the moment now what moment, how do you fix your issue? That's all I care about. That clicker is the only thing that matters in my life. And I've held true to that because now I'm really good at narrowing in what's important and only focus on that. But this was this is a 50-50 chance of me breaking my arm for the splint. That's how much the splint hurt.
Yeah,
But
I
eventually
mean, I can imagine. You asked me what I would do. That's probably a pain I've never experienced, but I can see where you could do that. Go for it.
yeah, I mean I thought about it long and hard, right? I'm like, well, I can wait half an hour, but then they may not be back in half an hour. And the pain at this stage, Ron, was like I'm biting my arm trying to distract myself from the pain. It's excruciating. And I can't undo it. I mean, it's just like a torture chamber on my leg. So you know what? I don't care what happens if I break my arm. I mean, I'm sure I'd change my priorities pretty quickly if I broke my arm, but I didn't break the arm. The splint had to get off my leg immediately. So I dropped down and grabbed the clicker and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I did because I was taking a solutions-oriented approach, and that really helped me. The mindset of like, no, I'm going after what I want and taking a solutions-oriented approach is a lesson that I've carried with me from that moment onward in time. But it's funny because like that's a story that I never told the parents when they were in the hospital, right? It's kind of happened. I'm like, well, I didn't feel the need to tell you. Like, I don't know, I didn't tell them this. They heard it on a podcast a couple months ago, but like it's pretty funny. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't I tell them at the time? I don't know. It's just like,
Well, you probably didn't want to worry them.
yeah, I didn't want to worry them and like not your problem. Like I kind of figured it out. Like it's there. It's done. But it's
Well, when you get into that intense pain like that, do you start sweating and does your blood pressure go down and
oh, sweating. I'm dizzy. Like I can't see
yeah, you're
straight.
dizzy. Yeah.
Like it's just like
It's not just the pain, it's all the collateral damage that comes with it, right?
it's. I've never felt pain like that in my life.
And it's probably half a panic attack.
Yeah, and I mean it's like I mean it's funny because it's just like a gentle bend to the leg was all it was, right? But over time it just ratchets up so excruciatingly painful. But with the help of the splint, I was able to start walking the hose of the Wilson. So like I was slowly building myself back up on the Zimmer frame. Zimmer frame's a four-post walker you kind of lurch forward on.
Did
I'm
they
building
give you
myself up.
did they give you any muscle relaxers or anything like that?
They actually injected my leg with a Botox
Uh-huh.
to loosen up the muscle and get it back to normal, and it works. So like I mean, Dr. Wong, shout out Dr. Wong, um, worked, but like it was after many nights of that splint, it was very difficult. In 1 hour a night, that was what we got up to. 1 hour a night was what we were doing for like rehabbing for the stretch, and that was like small gains, but it made a big difference, and it got myself walking, which was pretty cool. But yeah, it was excruciatingly painful, and like that's this leg still has some phantom kicks sometimes, and it gets a bit cramped up at times if I don't stretch it properly, and I mean, it is what it is now. I've got actually a whole bunch of tattoos on this leg now, Ron, that like on the upper thigh, just to remind myself what this leg's been through and what I can do when I need to. So I see that every day when I get up and I remind myself, you know what, Dan, you can do some hard stuff. So you know what, whatever today brings on, you can take it on and deal with it, which is pretty cool.
So Dan, let's jump to the next year, June 2015, a year later, you're back at work part-time. Tell us about that time period.
Yeah, so I've been discharged from the hospital. I was back to work, still doing some vocational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language therapy, like slowly build myself back up and back to work 2 half days a week, 3 half days a week. Trying to build momentum and like try to turn the corner, get my life back together, right? I was out of work for about a year. And I knew I'm in the tube and I'd take off to work and she'd go on her walk in the morning, right? In Gold Dock Road in London. And one morning didn't show up. She called my cell, no response. She goes back to my flat, which was just around the corner from Gold Dock Tube Station, back right on the tube. Actually, it's quite noisy. And she finds me unconscious in my flat. She calls 999, which is 911 in the States. And I'm rushed to the hospital, I have emergency brain surgery. What had happened was a shunt that's in my brain had blocked, leading to hydrocephalus or water on the brain. I was rushed into emergency brain surgery. I woke up in the hospital morning the next day, hearing the beeping noise and heart monitor going up behind me. Beep, beep, beep. What happened? What happened? What happened? Well, Dan, you had a second brain surgery. What do you mean? All my progress is washed over. We got the blockage. But yeah, but I worked for a year to get back to work, to get back to some sort of normalcy. I was trying to get myself ahead in life. I was trying to build myself back up and like get clear of this injury. We got the blockage, Ben, but you had a second emergency brain surgery. And I was devastated. I described my recovery like a W, Ron. So the first setback's down here. I kind of climbed back up to work, about halfway back up. The second setback is not where the first one was, but much lower. I call this the depths of the human experience. Where your hopes and dreams are kind of snickered at. Like, you thought you had a chance, but like, you're almost out of this, We dragged you back down the rabbit hole here. Like, you're going nowhere, man. I had to fight so hard to keep my mindset pure at this stage, Ron.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how much of a fight that was, because it was, you already done rehab, so I had to fight tooth and nail the like vocational stuff from a distance to help me kind of continue to get back on the track. Well, we see you've already done rehab. It's like, well, yeah, but I had a second brain surgery, but a second brain injury. Like, I'm back at square one, kind of, But I wasn't back at square one because I was able to walk, right? So I kind of realized
you were able to walk this time.
Yeah, I was able to walk, and I kind of realized like I lost the gains that I had made from the first injury, but I knew how to do them. I knew I could do them in my head.
Yeah.
So the lessons weren't lost, just the ability was lost. So it's like I knew I could do it. I said to like re-solidify those pathways again, which was, easier said than done. But it was like a spiral for about a week where I was down, woe is me, this isn't fair. And then I kind of quickly righted the ship and decided, this is not what happens to you, but how you respond to the matters, right? I kind of realized like I'm leveling up now. I got to improve my lot, focus my mindset, and kind of address this and go after this. But like it was a week, right? Where I was real down and real downtrodden, and I slowly built myself back up, back to work and physical therapy, vocational therapy, like slowly build myself back up and getting back to work and friends and London, and just, was work the problem? No, work was super accommodating. Hootsuite was phenomenal. Big shout out to Hootsuite. I appreciate you very much. Allowed me to get back to life, somewhat normalcy after this, but like that was a kick in the backside right there, Ron. That was difficult to navigate for sure.
Now your mother was living in London at that time?
Yeah, my mom and dad came up from London for about a year and a half, 2 years. So luckily they were able to help me with all the rehab and noise with this, because this was a whole another rat's nest of doctor's appointments, rehab, and checks and balances from work, and health and safety, and all this stuff from work, and just like it's a whole noise to deal with. I mean, it's all designed for your well-being, but it's just a lot to deal with, right? So thank goodness they were out there to help me with that. But it was yeah, so it was all a go in London at this stage, Ron.
I know you were mentally tough, and you knew you had to get back. Well, what was the driving force that was really motivating you to get back? Was it just, I mean, how do you explain it? That never give up attitude.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a pretty punchy, stubborn guy. Been undersized a bit, dating girls well out of my league, and just always, a bit chipping my shoulder, proving that I'm good enough to be here. And people would meet you later in life, and they make a comment about something, and like you're like, oh, cool, you're gonna say that, cool. And I really have this salty attitude, like I'm not gonna be a man, cool, watch it. I'm gonna prove you wrong. I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Right.
And it's a very toxic place that motivation can come from. It's very bitter and jaded, but like it burns hot, man, and it works. So I'm telling all these people that are going through a dark time, like, don't judge the motivation, ride the wave that comes. If it's that prove you wrong attitude, that chippy attitude, ride that wave, baby. I'm now trying to transition my motivation into now service line in hand. Your success is my success. Because when motivation comes from service-based motivation, it doesn't end when the interaction ends. It ends months, years down the line.
The podcast is so happy and proud to have Blue Sky CBD as one of our sponsors and supporters. At Blue Sky CBD, they know that the highest quality CBD starts from the seed. Blue Sky partners with sustainable, responsible farms for superior hemp plants to extract their CBD and other healthful phytonutrients. Each of Blue Sky's products contain high concentrations of CBD for maximum impact, and Blue Sky offers some of the lowest cost per milligram CBD on the market. All Blue Sky's products are THC free and are tested by a third-party laboratory for potency and purity. All this has made Blue Sky one of the only brands trusted by healthcare professionals across the United States. As the demand for CBD and its therapeutic potential have grown rapidly worldwide, it's difficult to know which products you can trust. At Blue Sky CBD, they don't just sell their products, they use their products. Blue Sky CBD proudly shares testimonials of their loved ones who use these products. Blue Sky CBD guarantees the potency and purity of each and every product they sell. Blue Sky tests their products 3 times. First, the plant is tested, next, the isolate, and last, the final product to ensure each product batch meets Blue Sky's high standards. A copy of the certificate of analysis is linked below each product description online. The Blue Sky CBD website contains client testimonials, including a case study for each testimonial from people just like you regarding people dealing with severe anxiety and insomnia, high blood pressure, pain management, headache, rheumatoid arthritis and spondylitis, and endocrine balance. Blue Sky even makes the product Pet Love for our canine and feline family members. There is some confusion between medical marijuana, CBDs that contain THC, and the THC-free hemp CBDs within states. Blue Sky CBD uses CBD derived from hemp that is THC-free, which is drug-free and can be sold everywhere legally. Blue Sky CBD wants you to feel confident with your purchase and offers you excellent customer service. If you are not satisfied with their products, you may request a refund of the full purchase price within 30 days of the product received date. When ordering, please use the podcast link to receive 20% off your initial purchase. The link and website information will be listed in the podcast notes.
Success is my success. I watched the Last Dance documentary, Ron, the Michael Jordan documentary. Did you happen to see that?
Which one was that?
The Last Dance documentary with Michael Jordan.
Oh yeah, did.
So I watched that, and the first thing I thought was, man, Michael Jordan and I are very similar. We're motivated by the same stuff.
Yeah.
But I saw how bitter and jaded he was as an old man, and I realized, like, I don't want to be this bitter, jaded old guy. Like, I want to, I'm a happy dude, man. I don't want to be this jaded guy. So, like, I'm trying to transition my motivation now from more service than hand. I'll be honest, Ron, proving you wrong is still part of my vibe, and I'm very much motivated by that. Tell me I'm not good enough to be here, and I will bend the world to prove you wrong. But if I can choose it, if I can coax it, I'm going to try and be more service-based. But you can't always choose your motivation, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, right now, just telling your story, making yourself vulnerable. I mean, just think of, and not just on this podcast, but I'm sure on other podcasts and other venues, just think what you're doing to help people out there that are just having a tough time. They're listening to your story, and it's got to be motivating.
I hope so. I'm like, this is a game plan for this, right? It's to show you a way through, because I had a lot of help, Ron. I had a ton of help. Parents came over from London, or from Vancouver to London. Friends and family, like, super supportive. Every concession made to make me successful in this. And I struggled so mightily. If you don't have that support, and most people won't have that support, like, it's going to be super difficult to get through this point. That's why I'm so driven to share the knowledge, because I don't want you to go through what I went through. And I had a lot of help, right? So, like, I'm trying to, like, pave the way and show you a way through. The way out is through, but you got to go through it, man. You can't try to go around it, dilly-dally around it. You got to go through the eye of the storm and go right at this thing. And it does break, because I was holding on for dear life, Ron. Holding on for dear life, and I wasn't sure I'd make it out of this, right? I didn't think I'd make it out alive, but I wasn't going to let go. If it was going to take me, it was going to have to come and claim me. I wasn't letting go. If you want me, you got to come get me, but I'm not letting go. And, like, that mentality, eventually the dawn broke, right? And I could walk out of there okay. Like, I walked in to see my My nurse from the ICU, I walked in with like an eye patch and a cane, and she burst into tears because I didn't think I made me go back in there.
Yeah. She saw
There's no
you at
real
that.
concept of this. Like I walked back in with a wheelchair and like a cane and an eye patch, and like that was early days from the injury, and like she burst into tears because like she didn't think it was possible. But like I'm just I did this test to jump ahead a little bit, Ron. Let me just jump ahead this story I'll tell you right now. I did this test with this brain injury group in Vancouver, Health Tech Connect last autumn. Last autumn, I think. And we did a whole bunch of brain scans. They put this thing in this cap on your head, and they put gel in there, and they read out these words like horse, dog, cat food, pear, like all these weird rules. And they say that like your brain fires synapses to show they're connected or not connected. And my results came back as average, right?
Uh-huh.
With the guy with two brain injuries, that's pretty good. Average results pretty good.
I was gonna say that's darn good.
But I read that as shockingly average, Ron, because I've recovered so well. There's a lot of ego and like bravado in this as well. I read this as shockingly average because it was like I should be super superior and underperforming in certain areas. Like I should be high and low here. But average was like I couldn't accept that. Then I realized after some time that you know what, Ron, like average is pretty good because that means I'm not better or smarter than you. I'm just maybe more driven and focused on my plan. I've got my plan and I'm seeing this through. I'm nose over the toes of my board and I'm riding this wave down. But I'm so committed to the plan, so committed to what I want to do, that I'm being successful because of that drive and that commitment to the plan. And that means that you can do this too. Everything I'm talking about, you can do as well. I'm no better or smarter than you, but I've chosen to go forwards.
Right.
Which is, there's this great story, Ron. I'll just parlay into this as well. I'm going wildly off piece for you, but we'll go with this. I played Monopoly last or 2 years ago with a family in Gibson. We have a cottage up in Gibson's, right? My mom, dad, brother, and I played Monopoly. I haven't played in years, right? I'm a pretty competitive guy, Ron, so I Googled before the game how to win at Monopoly. A bit cheeky, but like, they could do that too, whatever.
Yeah.
And I read these rules like, game plan, strategy, like how to win at Monopoly, right? And kind of these weird things like don't pick up the railroads, you don't want the utilities, you want to focus on getting Monopoly and then
The podcast welcomes the Edge Coffee Company as a supporter and sponsor. Mike, the founder of Edge, wanted to build a different kind of coffee company, one that makes a high quality product that is truly good for customers and makes the world a better place through the production of coffee, and also be an engine for good by directing at least 10% of the profits to a sustainable social mission. As everyone knows, coffee can be a health beverage, but it doesn't have to cause jitteriness and anxiety or digestive issues. Coffee is full of antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and polyphenols that your body needs to function optimally. Yet, pesticide residue and mold toxins can negatively impact your health. Commercial coffee production can be a nasty business where the environment and people are exploited. Typical commercial grade coffee is processed with huge amounts of chemical fertilizer and synthetic pesticides. Often it contains trace amounts of mycotoxins. Any wonder people feel anxious, jittery, and have digestive issues from drinking it. That is why Edge Coffee is always certified organic and tested in a third party lab and found to have no detectable traces of mycotoxins. Edge uses only specialty grade beans. Specialty grade is a technical term that applies to about the top 3% of coffee beans produced worldwide. Not only do these beans taste the best, they are also the healthiest. 10% of Edge Coffee's profits fund interest free loans to entrepreneurs in Peru. Edge is so sure that you will love the taste of their premium clean coffee, free from mycotoxins and pesticide residue, that they offer a generous refund policy. Please click the link in the podcast notes to order and get detailed information on Edge Coffee.
put all your money on like building that Monopoly, right? So I go around, land on Ream Railroad, like, do you want Ream Railroad? No, no, thanks. Land on utility, do you want utility? No, no, thanks. Land on Park Place. Park Place, the most swish spot in the whole spot.
Right.
You want to buy that? I'm like, no, thanks. Dad, do you know how to play Monopoly? I'm like, yeah, I do. All these are trying to pull you, like telling you, like, change your plan, change your plan, change your plan. I got a Monopoly in the yellow ones, like the Marvin Gardens, whatever. And I dumped all my money into houses and hotels, and I mopped the floor with this group.
Good for you.
And the lesson here is if you know that the plan is right, Stick to the plan.
Yeah.
They'll be tempted to change your plan. They're like, look at Park Place, look at Reading Railroad. They're so sexy. Look at how nice these properties are. I was like, no, no, no. You know the plan's right. I read this like 10 minutes or like an hour before. You know the plan works. Stick to the plan. If you waver and you go back and forth, you lose momentum. You're losing power. Like, I mopped the floor with them. And that's in life too, right? Like, if you know the plan works, stick to a plan and follow through with everything you got.
Right.
Don't be half in, half out, half in, half out, all the way through, and finish, man.
Right. It's
My
not,
brother says it was the most complete game of Monopoly he's ever seen played in his life.
well, there's going to be
Like,
bumps in the road, but you got to stick to the plan.
you gotta stick to the plan.
Yeah.
And if you know how to, if you gotta play Monopoly, sometime to get in touch. I'll give you the secret notes here. But it's a metaphor for life, right? Like it's don't wishy-wash on the plan. Stick to your plan and follow through with it, right?
Right. Absolutely. Dan, what is your current situation now as we speak? And do you have a routine to live by day to day? How are you
Yeah, for
doing
sure.
right
So
now?
I'm a keynote speaker based in Vancouver, Canada. So jumped into the speaking world after being let go from my Hootsuite job last autumn or 2 autumns ago. I kind of took an afternoon to lick my wounds and decided I'm a keynote speaker tomorrow. Went down and bought a new computer. And I might have played up the loss of the job a little bit to everyone to let them know, like, oh, I'm really having a tough time with this. But like, I'm meanwhile wildly looking up how to research how to become a keynote speaker and make this happen. But that's reducing the acceptance time from like a month, a week to an afternoon. Acceptance is kind of the whole key vibe here, right? The faster you can get to acceptance, the faster you can improve your lot and take steps to rectify it. But I'm a keynote speaker now based in Vancouver, Canada. And my morning routine is very regimented, Ron. Thank you for bringing this up. I'm very diligent with this. I wake up early. I usually go for a workout or go for a walk or for a gym, get a sweat on. Mood follows action, right? Have a shower, then I'll end the shower cold. 1 minute, 30 seconds to a minute, but ice cold. And that's a giddy up and go. You can't even bottle that, man. That's phenomenal. And then I'll meditate for about 20 minutes every morning. But that's a routine I've got solidified to help me get myself prepped and primed for the day. With the brain injury, there's something called fatigue, right? So I have to do this to be my best self. I've got a battery about 75% compared to yours, and it drains much faster. But if I do this in the morning, I can set myself up for success and get myself prepared for the day and show up for my best self. But I'm very regimented with that, and that's the best way for me to be successful. But I would recommend your listeners to find a routine that works for them. It doesn't have to be my routine, but find something that works and just be routine based in the morning. Because if you can reduce the thinking and the demands in your brain in the morning, you can be more successful and be more proactive and productive. But yeah, I'm very diligent with my routine and very, very focused on that. So thank you for bringing that up, Rob.
What are some of your future goals you're striving for that you have not tried or done yet that you used to do?
Well, speaking is a big part of my vibe now. That's a lot of stuff's revolved around that. So TEDx stage would be nice. I've got big aspirations for speaking in big stages there. I want to continue to make an impact and drive that home. But I skied last winter on a ski back up Grouse Mountain, which is phenomenal. It was a goal that I had when I was in the hospital, which is a phenomenal to reach and phenomenal to do. It was a goal that I didn't think was possible. It was a moonshot goal. But it's just had that in my mind and I wanted to do it. I wanted to go fast again. And I was so grateful I got to go fast again on the ski slopes, bought a new helmet, made that work, and continue to reach for new heights, right? That skiing was a big goal. I didn't think it was possible, and now I did that. So now I'm gonna go with the TEDx talk, big speaking stages, and just continue to climb and grind here, man. It's a grind uphill, but it's a good grind. I'm liking it very much.
So what words of wisdom do you have for those going through difficult times, and what can others from your experience? I know you're doing speaking engagements. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so mindset is so key for this, right? The more I realize about this, the more I talk about this, the more I realize the mindset is so key for this, right? It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. That's Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher. That is the game. If you can get that ingrained in your mindset, like, what are you gonna come out with that I can't overcome? Like, it's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. Now I continue to climb the ranks speaking. Been speaking professionally for about a year, ramping up gigs, ramping up fees, ramping up all the stages I do. But trying to add value and trying to add perspective to people's that are stuck in their minds, that are stuck in a poor spot. Like, I'm just pivoting my keynotes around, that unexpected punch, that curveball that comes in life.
Yeah.
To really kind of nail myself down as an expert in that space, because that's essentially what I've experienced. Is it's a couple curveballs, right? Stuff that caught you out of left field, and like you don't know how to deal with it. But like, I can show you a way through this, and it's a 3A framework that I've got with going with you. I'll show that now, Ron. It's acknowledge, accept, and adapt. First, you got to acknowledge it. Is this true? Is this real? Is this facts? You got to accept it. You got to believe it. You got to understand it. Like, honestly, like, give it real acceptance. And you got to adapt. Tactile hacks to improve your lot and adapt to the situation you got. But it's easier said than done. I know how tough this is, but you put one foot in front of the other. I had eye surgery, as you can tell, I'm on the eye patch today. Eye surgery maybe 6 months back, and my eyes were like this. I've got double vision, which I've got now, but it's not 1-in-1. It's 1-in-1 like this, Ron. And so the eye surgery kind of pivoted this one up a little bit, and it changed my left eye dramatically, right? My dad asked me, he goes, Dan, do you regret having the eye surgery? And I go, yeah, it's changed everything. I stammered out a quick response. But I had a bit more time to think about it the next day, and I realized, you know what, Dad, I don't regret it because I was taking the next step. This lovely book, The Horse, the Boy, the Fox, and the Mole. And the boy's walking through a thick wood. And he turns back to the horse and he goes, I can't see a way through. And the horse goes, can you see your next step? And the boy goes, yeah. So the horse says, well, then just take that. What I was doing with the eye surgery, Ron, was taking the next step. I can't see the whole way through the forest, but I'm taking the next step that's available to me. And that was the eye surgery. And it's backfired on me, but it's in the pursuit of being better than yesterday, I need to take that step, and that's going to result in some blunders from time to time. But it's not the end of the world. I've got a meeting with the eye doctor next month, and we're going to hopefully have eye surgery again if we can. And we'll take another stab at this, but it's not easy, but it's simple to decide that I want better than it is now. I'm not going to settle for this. I'm not going to settle for this. So it's a mental game is what I'm trying to get around here. It's a mental game.
Yeah. It's acknowledgement, accept it, and adapt. Very, very good.
AAA framework, man. I like that.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good. AAA.
AAA. Yeah. Very, very good advice. Dan, how can people say they want to contact you, that type of thing? Is it possible to contact you? Is there a contact?
It is, yes. So you can reach my website, MacQueen Dan, MacQueen, Dan.com. You can see my demo reel and also a contact form on the website. I'm doing speaking gigs online and in person. I'd love to explore what a talk would look like for your group. So get at me and we'll go from there. I'm also available online, MacQueen Dan across the socials. Same handle as the website.
Okay. And can you give me that website one more time?
MacQueenDan.com.
MacQueenDan.com. Okay. We're gonna
MAC.
MAC.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put that in the podcast notes for everybody out there. So I want to thank you so much, Dan, for being on the podcast, sharing your incredible story, inspiring others out there listening to this. I wish you all the best in your recovery going forward, and really nothing but good fortune for you in the future. You're thinking of writing a book about this?
Maybe. I mean, it's let's get the speaking gig off the ground first. But one last thing for your audience, Ron.
Yeah, go ahead.
The way out is through. The way out is through. Don't wish it was easier. Make yourself stronger. You got to go at this thing with a fury, and you can't let up. You can't let up. It breaks. You don't think it's going to break, but it does break, man. And it does break, but you got to keep moving forwards.
Don't
it's
stop.
difficult at times. I know it's difficult to move forward, but like you gotta keep taking that step, even if it's a small step. And sometimes that step forward is 4 steps back. But take the next step,
And
and it does eventually get better for you. I promise you
th
that.
those steps, those small steps forward are going to lift your spirits, right?
Well, like I didn't think it'd be possible to be back where I'm at today. No one thought I'd be back in this position now, Ron. Like there's no way they thought it'd be possible. Telling them I'm gonna ski again, yeah, right, Dan. Like, sure, that would a great goal to have, Dan, but like, no way you're going skiing again. I skied last year, right? That was like a goal 10 years in the making. Like, you can do this stuff, but you have to just be so focused and driven on this. Like that mindset of like sticking to your plan, like just see it through. See it through. But have a plan and see it through.
Right. Well, thank you again, Dan, for taking the time to be on the podcast and talking to our audience. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Ron. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, my pleasure. It was an honor to have you on there. I want to thank everybody for listening. And if anybody has comments and suggestions for the podcast, you can email me at itsarapwithrap@gmail.com. Our Facebook group is It's a Rap with Rap. We have a couple thousand people in there. We'd be happy to have you come aboard. Twitter or X, as it's known now, is @Rapper, WRAPPER 130. Our website is itsarapwithrap.com. All the podcasts are on there. YouTube, It's a Rap with Rap, the podcast uncut. All the episodes are on our YouTube channel. I want to thank everyone for listening. Please stay safe. And for now, it's a wrap.